Hi, my name is Lohit. Crackers. Hi, my name is Lohit, and if you are here for the first time, do look at the other videos on this channel and make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, leave a thumbs up. Thank you. So this is a pretty long conversation because I had a lot of questions to ask, so I had to break it down to two parts. If you have watched the first part, only then continue to watch this second part, or else watch the first part on the same podcast and then come to the second part. I hope you have a great time listening to this conversation. Thank you. And after music, did you when you are working on the project, did you get to meet or talk with anybody from the other rest of the crew?
So this started in the lockdown and ended in within the lockdown, right? So funny story, we've never even had so much as a video call.
Oh wow.
Nothing. We've just spoken over the phone. So I've spoken to Jay obviously like a lot of times, and Harshad Mehta sir, and that's it. Never had to speak to Achin because his work was already done. And yeah, that's it, man. Like we didn't talk to anybody else. Like my collaborator who I worked with, Orko, he's uh, he's the guy who did the storyboards and he worked on the character design also. So yeah, we just collaborated via Google Meet. He's in Calcutta, by the way. Like, he's not even in. I stay in Mumbai. He's in Calcutta. So we just collaborated over Google Meet. So this is like the power of the internet. This whole project. That's how it happened.
Uh, I had this one doubt. Generally, when you're working on the post production, do the people working in the post production, do they get to meet with the cast and crew, or is it like in completely different regions? Like you work on the entire thing separately, even before when you work for Bhoot or Raktanchal.
Right. No, again, Raktanchal happened the same way. Never had so much as a video call. Just yeah, I'll do it. Done. So, but that's because of the lockdown rules. Usually, you meet with the director or whoever is in charge, face to face, and there's like you get to see the edit in the edit room and all that. But in that sense, you do get to meet the crew, but not the whole entire production crew by any chance because their work has already been finished by that point, and we definitely don't get to meet the cast because again we don't have much to do with them, you know. So generally that doesn't happen.
Another thing is did you get any inputs from the director, sir, or did they give that complete freedom saying that okay, this is the track and you have to make a sequence out of it? So was there any input from their side?
Yeah, they were actually very lenient in that way. They gave me a lot of creative freedom, and they reined me in also when I was like getting out of hand, you know, like doing something that wasn't working. They told me like it wasn't like they were shy or anything. They totally like told me off, and that's why we did a lot of iterations. For instance, the CG character of Harshad Mehta, that was something that was a little hard to crack. You know, like the first few iterations were either like the proportions were too cartoonish or they were like too realistic. So so we didn't want to get into that uncanny valley also. So and at the same time, it shouldn't look like a comic book character, like full on. It can be stylized that way. So we kind of it was hard. It took like a bunch of iterations, man, and actually the whole project. I don't even know. I mean, just to arrive to that final look for each shot, just that graphic look of the whole thing. It took at least 17 or 18 versions to get to that. And yeah, it was a bunch. Yeah, it was a bunch, and it wasn't even. This is something I learned in the last couple of years that and I learned it the hard way that it's better to keep a track of all these things, because it's not always the case that the final version, like the last version that you made, is the final version. because you might have 17 versions, but the 15th version might be the one that makes the cut. So you make sure you keep them separate. That's why I have a bunch of project files lying around. And it has happened a lot of times where I've had to go back like 2 3 versions because that one is feeling better now. That happens. So yeah, so they did give a lot of feedback, but it was all good feedback. That also I must say. So and as far as the concept goes, they never even asked me twice about the validity of it, about whether it makes sense or not. Like, as I pitched them the idea with an animatic, like the storyboards I animated cut along with the music, because by themselves the storyboards, even to me, didn't make sense. I'm a very visual person and I hate reading. So I have to see it work in conjunction with the music. Like if it's a cut, like even the cuts were actually pretty similar to the animatic, so that sorted us out. That sold the idea properly. Like the kind of thing we were seeing, they were also seeing. There was no doubt in our heads. We were so they approved it from day one, the idea.
Oh, wow.
But the execution is what took time. That took a lot of back and forth. But yeah, it happened, I think.
This is a very serious story that had to be explained in a very serious tone. So, uh, where did this idea come from that you have to use an animation title sequence? Because for TV shows, for example, they take the clips from the footage, the actual footage on the TV show or the web series, and try to make the title sequence. So this animation sequence could have been a little riskier, because if it was, as I said, if it was a little comical, it wouldn't have fit the right space. So it's a little risky, but it turned out well. So, but before
Yeah.
working on it, what was the idea? Like, how did you think that you could do justice to this?
I mean, it's like I don't want to quote the show, but risk hai to you know the rest. Like, that's their ideology also. Like, Jay was very adamant from the get go only. Like, he knew what he would get if he would work with me. Because just because of whatever I had done in the past, that was my strength when I was speaking to him. Like, I wasn't the guy to mess around with footage anyway. Like that's not my style. That's not what I'm good at. Also, I don't know. I've never tried, but like that's not what I've done so far. So I probably wouldn't be willing to do something like that anyway. And he knew that. So they were from the start only. They were very sure they wanted something animated. Their reference was Mad Men from the start. So there, the only thing that changed and also there was another party who was doing that, the title sequence. But for some or the other reason, it didn't work out with them. And they had to leave the project because they had some other commitment, something or the other happened. That opened a door for me to step in and kind of, and what was happening then was these guys, whoever I think they were trying to do a 2D version of the whole thing, like similar to Mad Men, where it's like flat, and so that's the reference I got, and I was like, I instantly understood like what they meant by the Madman thing, because that's why the Madman title sequence works so fucking well, right? Because the show is very grounded. Nobody's flying off of buildings. There's nothing exploding. Nothing happens. It's a very like real dramatic show, just like Scam.
Yeah.
But the stakes in that show, they're kind of visually interpreted in that way. Like those stakes are like they're sky high. They're that big for them, right? Like making that sale is that important to these guys. Like being on top of the game is that important for these guys. Like they where it's if you you drop in a position, you're literally falling from the top, similar to what happened here. So I understood that notion. I understood that grandiose, that surreal depiction that they wanted to go for. But at the same time, I felt like that's already done. I mean, that's why we know about the Mad Men title sequence. Everybody knows about it because it's done. They did a very good job at it. So I was like, how can we try to pay homage to that, but also maybe take it a step further and just try to do something different with that. So that's what I've tried to do. And I think it looks pretty similar to Mad Men in that way. but I hope it looks inspired and not copied.
And it was definitely so unique in its own way, and it definitely suited with the whole series theme. So it was awesome. You did a great job, and your whole team did a great job. Uh, okay. After this was released, what kind of response did you get? Because once you get that big breakthrough, everybody keeps knocking on your doors. So, what kind of response did you get after this was released from your team or from the other people in the industry?
The team, I mean the scam team, we were like, thankfully they were very nice about it. They, even from the start, they were, like the post production people especially, like I mean they're the only people I was in contact with. So I also did some motion graphics for the show. So if you've seen the show, whenever there is a, there's some statistic popping up, like the stocks are rising or some bar graphs random here and there, all of that is also me. So my title sequence was done a month ago, and then for the last month I was just doing those things. Like if there's a magazine shot of Harshad Mehta on a magazine, all that is also CG. That is also done by us only. So we were working on those. So while we were delivering those, and uspe bhi, there's a lot of corrections that happens. No, this information is not right, blah blah blah. And while that was happening, these guys were, every once in a while they would say that, bro, epic title sequence. I'm like, chalo, because at that time it's not public knowledge yet. Like I haven't shown it to anybody. In fact, like probably four or five people had seen it. Like for a month after the title sequence has been finished, nobody had seen it. So I was very anxious to, like after a point, I was like, I thought, okay, this is probably not that great. It's whatever. Like I almost forgot about it. It's just something that happened. I've done because you usually you're used to that sort of instant gratification, right? You finish something and you get to put it out in the world as creators. So this was something. This was a new experience in that way, where I had to sit on something that I made for so long. And yeah, but when it finally did release, wow! Like I have never gotten this. I mean, I haven't gotten this kind of response since the day I was born. I think. I mean, yeah, like so many people haven't been happy about my existence. So like that's epic. That's great. It's just I just never thought that so many people would care about how this kind of stuff is created. Like who creates all of this stuff. Like I never thought that that was the case, because I mean obviously was curious about all that, because I'm one of those people who wants to do this for a living and who's passionate about this. But people who have nothing to do with this field, like you yourself also, you have some, you're from the field itself, right? That's why I can understand why you would be interested. But for other people who are not from any creative walks of life, even they have messaged me personally on Instagram, like just found out about me. And that's just crazy to me. Like people would care that much. Like that's really good. Like that's a good kind of change, because that's not the place I grew up in. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't care about all of this at all. So these people are way better than me already. That's it makes me hopeful for the future. For the future of content. It's a good time for creators. That's great.
When you make a great product, then definitely people reach out and congratulate you. So you definitely deserve all the applause that you have been getting. So, what are your future projects that you are working on, or if you can reveal that?
Well, future though, there's a couple of things in the pipeline, man. It's happening. It's exciting also.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the bigger ones I can't talk about because like I've signed some stuff. But it's definitely cool. So next year is fully packed. It's not like it's going to go empty or anything. Next year is going to be like I hope going to be better than this one. Let's see, like even bigger, better projects. But stuff I can talk about is I've started to like try to find the time to collaborate with a lot of musicians also. The yeah, musicians to make like visuals for them, music videos for them, identities and all that. Because that's like I already told you, music plays a big part in my creative process and my daily life as well. And yeah, I mean, I think we should all do what we can to support our independent music scene. And I think I like visual creators have a really easy and good way to do that. So yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to doing. And yeah, basically there's just more title sequences coming for sure. That's all I can say for now.
Before we wrap up, I have a couple of questions. You did say that you wanted to work majorly in the film industry or somewhere in that field. Would you be like working in the commercial, for TV commercials, for example? Would you be working in that, or any other project which are not related to film industry? Like you said, you will be working for musicians. So, any other things that you will be interested in? Because once people get into film industry, they don't really go to the other industries since they have a lot of work coming from the film industry itself. So,
Right.
what about you? Would you be working in other industries even after getting this kind of response in the film industry?
Well, it really depends on the project. Honestly, I mean, I can't take one, I can't judge the whole film industry based on one nice project. And because there are, like, I haven't worked for a long time to really know the full depth of the industry and, how good it can be or how bad it can be. But even in the short time that I've worked, I've seen two ends of the spectrum. Like the best project I've worked on is matched by the worst project that I've also worked on in the industry, in the same industry. Though it happens. In commercials, it's just a different like. I haven't done a lot of commercials. I've done maybe like one or two, but by what I've heard from my friends and like my peers in the industry and what I've experienced in the short time is that it's very fast paced. Like if I'm getting a month or two to do a title sequence, I'll get like 2 or 3 days to finish a commercial. So it's really hectic. I mean, in that way, and I personally like to take my time because I for me it's all in the details, man. Like you keep working at that, hacking away at that one edge till it's something you can pass. So if I don't get to follow through that process, it just feels very incomplete to me, and that's a nagging feeling that I don't like. So commercials, man, I think I'll only do it if the project feels like it's something that I would like to do. Because other than that, I really don't like commercials as much. So yeah, but there are other kinds of, it's not just commercials and film work. There's a lot of other cool design heavy stuff that happens. uh, like for events, for like online exhibitions, or even openers for exhibitions, openers for events. That's also something that happens. I got to work on this opener for this convention on polio, no, on the eradication of polio held by the Gates Foundation. This is something that was headed by Anirudh Mehta and me and Samresh. We worked on it on the motion design for it. So that was really cool, man. Like to get a stage like that to show and a topic that's that serious. It's not said that you can just again glam up and make it look cool with some glitches and stuff. So that was a very serious topic to tackle, but again that was cool. So that was interesting. So those kinds of projects where it's different from the last, it kind of takes you into uncharted territory. Those kind of projects I would like to work on, regardless of what field they're from. Doesn't matter if it's a commercial or a movie thing, whatever. Just has to be cool.
I have one more question since I'm also interested in this field. I wanted to ask this to a professional. What do you suggest? Working with a media agency or an agent, or working independently and getting your own projects? What would you suggest? Since you have worked in both ways, what would you suggest is the best way?
So I started as an intern. Then I transitioned into like a motion designer at the studio, and now like after scam, now I'm working as an independent uh, freelancer. So that was my graph so far. So and what I've learned through that is now this is something that worked for me. It might not be the case for everyone, but for me, having that security of a job or an internship where in the beginning at least, where you get to kind of spread your wings. Like it's like having training wheels on. You do whatever you want. You just get a feel of riding the bike. And without having any fear of falling over or nothing bad can happen to you, right? Like even if you're not the lead on a project and it's not something that you've taken on your own, your studio has taken it. So like worst comes worst, you can't do something. It's still not like 100% your responsibility, right? It's the studio's responsibility to assign that task to somebody else. And chances are, if you're in a studio, there will be two or three other people like you who are working there, right? So they can take up the slack if by any chance you're not able to deliver something. So this is the place where you build confidence and have a safety net, right? In case something bad happens. So you have that option of making mistakes. It's like an extension of college in a way, I would say. College is where you pay the fees to kind of mess up for 4 years so that you don't mess up afterwards. So this is kind of like that, where you don't take up the projects completely by yourself. So you leave a little room for you to kind of figure stuff out. But once you feel like, and this is something I think that's different for every person. Every person feels it in a different way. I also started feeling it when I realized that, that all of the stuff that I was doing in my studio, most of it I was doing myself, so it was like I mean I'm already kind of functioning in that way where for me one of the biggest challenges was getting hardware. Like if you're from this field, just how power hungry these things can be. Like any 3D animation software or workflow requires a ton of horsepower. So I've been saving up for the last year. It took me a year to just save up enough to buy my own system. As soon as I did, then I was off. Then I was like, and that's why I could do scam because I had my own system.
Doesn't the film that you're working on, don't they provide the hardware or funding to buy stuff?
Not really, unless it's a very specific thing that you're doing. Like if it's something, and that's mainly left for the VFX people, if at all. Like if you're doing something like title sequences and everything, you're supposed to have your own hardware. I mean, you can factor that into the budget, if at all, but hardly doesn't happen. I mean, if you're a freelancer doing these kind of things, to have like the physical resources and also the knowledge based resources while you're working in a sort of safe sheltered space and kind of honing that skill until you're ready to kind of leave, because once you're ready, that same safety net that was keeping you safe also blocks you from really achieving your full potential. That's what I believe. So that's why I set out on my own now. Like, let's see how that happens. Hopefully, I'm right.
Okay, from your experience in the and after having done these many projects, what do you have some tips or tricks for people who are working in this field?
Okay. Right. Okay. So, like personal projects versus commercial, actual like industry projects. No? Yeah. Okay. There are a few differences that I've found in my experience so far. Firstly, in personal projects, you generally don't have to care about the process as much because it's all here, right? It's all in your head. You know what you're doing. You know why you've come to this step and what made you abandon that previous design in the last one. You don't have to keep a record of all these things. But when there's more than one party involved, and most of the times that other party is your client who is not from the same field as you, who doesn't share the same understanding of references like you do. So then it becomes a very different ball game. I like to call it a visual vernacular that you have to share with your client. So when I say a beach, like there's a different image that pops into my head and there's a different image that pops into your head. But
Yeah.
if I show you some references of Bali or something, in a mood board or in a picture board or something, then every time I say beach, you're thinking about that beach that I showed,
Yeah.
and I'm also thinking about that beach. So that kind of aligns the headspace and the thinking, just the visual vernacular. That's just the tag I like to call it, because those things are important to establish in the beginning, so that, because there's a lot of back and forth, right? And on personal projects, there is no back and forth, which is so great. You just try something out, it doesn't work, no problem. You just try something else. Here, that has a cost, so you have to kind of pitch a couple of things. Like every stage needs to have a presentation, so you have to work on your presentation skills, and make like that. Also, I think on a lot of levels, I think it also sometimes it doesn't even matter what you're presenting, as long as you're presenting it well.
Yeah.
That's what makes it look professional, and that also does half the selling for you. Okay, this guy probably knows what he is doing, so better trust him. They want to do that, but you have to give them enough for them to do that, to be able to do that. So yeah, so it's just following a process is much more important when you're doing an industry project, and it's also more fun. I mean, I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but for me, it's definitely more fun, because if you don't follow a process, you can only go as far as you can see, which is kind of, when you think about it, it's very limiting, right? Because this is like it, it's a creative journey, right? So when you can only go as far as you can see, that's something that has been done. That's something that you can already think of doing right now. But if you use those as checkpoints, you go that far, then you put a pin on it, then you think some more, you go farther ahead. You keep exploring. So then, if when you look back and when you connect the dots, then you realize you've arrived at a destination that you could have never imagined when you began this project. And that's when you've really taken that journey forward, and that is only possible if you have checkpoints along the way, because you can't do it at one stretch in one go. You can only divide it, and having a record helps you kind of recapitulate that. So, and it also helps you convey that same message, that same journey to the client or to your co-workers, your colleagues. So it's great to just have the whole team on board, and everybody can kind of help you also. Like what you're thinking, they can append to that also. If you have a mood board, if you have an idea board, they can also suggest some things, and you're like, okay, that's cool, that makes sense. You can put it on there as well. So I think it really makes for a collaborative effort, because a lot of the times personal projects end up being individual solo projects, which is, again, it's kind of like you're just messing around. You're very rarely do you get to grow truly if you don't get to learn from somebody else. That has been my experience. It's I always absolutely love working with the other people in the team, because I always end up becoming a better version of myself at the end of the project. And yeah, I mean, tip wise though, that's the only thing that I can think of. Like, take every project, like like you wouldn't be the same after that one. Like, you would never approach that kind of a project in the same way. You should try to involve yourself that much. So which is not something you probably have to do in a personal project, but you can always revisit it again. Because but commercial projects are always that they have that all or nothing vibe. I'm not sure if I'm clear, but like that's the best way I can explain it. Like, yeah.
Was really so insightful. Thank you so much for that. One more last thing is you are working as a freelancer, as you said. So for
Yeah.
somebody working as a freelancer, not just in this field, in other fields also, how what would you suggest them? Like how can they get their projects? Because usually people keep complaining that they don't get enough clients or they don't get enough projects to get paid for. So what would you suggest them?
Well, see, I mean, honestly, I don't know how to say it, but I've been extremely fortunate in how I've just I've somehow I've met the right people, and like out of a lot of people that I could have met, I've met the like the best people that I could have met out of like sheer fate, you know, chance, luck, call it what you want. And these guys have not only taught me things, but they have looked out for me also. We've gotten that extra distance. So I fully attribute it to them and call it fortune or just call it their goodwill. But that's how it worked for me. But in general, what happens is like I also believe that for me, pitching has never worked. So like pitching a project to someone like hey, maybe I could do this for you, that generally doesn't work. The only good projects that I've ever gotten are projects that have come to me, and the only reason like like these are offers, like would you like to do this, they have always approached me. The only thing I approached anyone for was Plexus for my internship. After getting rejected from like 40 other places I had applied to, like last resort, I have to make this work. So I messaged them on Facebook. They were like, come. Like that that sorted me out for life, thank God. But yeah, as for just getting decent work, I think in the start, there's nothing stopping you from collaborating, man. Like you build a solid body of work. I like. I mean, you said you checked out my portfolio. I mean, it's really terrible stuff in the beginning, but none of that was like professional projects, right? It was just messing around, like it's just you have to document it like the same way you have to document your process for your clients. No, you have to document your like what you're thinking, what you're capable of. No, not necessarily your magnum opus. You don't have to make the best thing you will ever make and put it up there. That doesn't make sense. That you're yet to make that, right? But you have to show your potential in whatever way possible. Try to be as creative as you can, and just put it out there for people to see. I have gotten the coolest projects for the most obscure things that I have done in the past. Someone, yeah, like there was this. I think my first really dope, really cool project that I worked on was this teaser, this CG teaser for India's first hypercar. That was
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I did watch that. Yes.
right. Yeah. So Vazirani Automotive's Shul, the car was called. So this is when I was in my third year of college. I was in Mumbai doing a 2 month internship. So I would the CEO of that company. He's a young chap. He again messaged me on Facebook. I was like, this looks shady. Like, who says you want to make a teaser for a hypercar? Sounds like funny business. But I still met the guy, and turns out he's the real deal. And then I found out that he saw my old Behance project, something that I put up like a year or two ago, and he just really liked the color that I had used in one of those projects. He was like, I like that color, and I saw that you are based in Mumbai, so maybe we can discuss further. But just agreed with what I had to say, and that just that got it going. So I the way I would put it, just to like kind of put it in a concise way is do all the work you can, do all the interesting work you can. All it will earn you is 5 minutes of time with a potential client. What you do with those 5 minutes is completely up to you. That's your time to impress them, or just to show them the plane of thought you're at. Because it is very easy to get that vibe off of people. As creatives, we all know this because we read the clients before they even try to read us, right? We try to understand, okay, is this guy going to be a douchebag or is he going to be like a helpful guy? We try to make that judgment call within 5 minutes, right? So they're doing the same thing to you as well. So so it's just like you can earn those 5 minutes, that's all you can get. But after that, if you can push that to 10 minutes, you're already winning. Push that to half an hour, you bagged it. Or at least you put them in a serious like fix. At least they're choosing between you and somebody. That's also a favorable position to be in.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think it's just be honest and just think about stuff. I guess like be analytical, man. It helps.
I think that's it for the podcast. Thank you so much for your time. And just one more thing, if anybody has to reach out to you? How can they reach out to you?
I haven't even made my website yet. I don't have a reel. It's surprising really. Like I mean I know I'm like very lazy, so I'm getting to that. But for now, until then, my Instagram handle, which is my name, Jishnu Chatterjee. That's where I can be reached, I guess. I'm online a lot, but at really odd times. So that's I apologize.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And thank you, man. Like this was super cool. Like I like the amount of research that you've done just for this. And that's really cool.
I really had a great time, and it was really insightful to talk someone from the industry, and that too from a person of this age doing that much. So I had a great time talking with you. I hope soon we have another chat on any of your other projects that will come in the future. But for now, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. This was cool. I'm humbled. I'm really
Yeah, thank you so much. See you soon.